Okay guys, so now we're going to learn about objects and the basics of objects within Java. Let's just create a new project for this. So we'll call this objects. Add some sample code, press create. If you've not seen any of the other videos in this series, please go back to the first one and watch from the start. If you're already familiar with Java fundamentals, then you can carry on. So we have our main program here. And everything in Java, not everything, but quite a few things in Java are objects. Now, you may have heard of object-oriented programming before. So, OOP. And it is the way of essentially transcribing, characteristics and behaviors into code that represent a real-world entity or a real-world abstraction. For example, we could create an object to represent a dog or a person or a computer. And all of these will have characteristics and attributes within themselves, and they'll be contained within themselves. So for example, if we look at a dog obviously has a name, it has a breed, it also might have a coat color, it might also have an owner. So they are the sort of fields that you might expect that would make up a dog. Which are obviously characteristics. Now, we also have behaviors, right? So a behavior is going to be, things like bark, eat, for example. It might have one for run, so it might, it can run. So these are all the things that it can do, right? And these are all of its behaviors, which obviously they're not called behaviors in programming. We call those either functions / methods. Method is, the Java sort of terminology for that. What's going to say? Characteristics. So this would be an example of, a dog object, right? You could add way more to this, but it's how we represent, real world things in a programmatic or code form. So Java is an object-oriented language. So what we can do is we can create an object, or what we call an object in Java would be a class, right? A class that has all of these fields and all of these functions and not characteristics, but actions, right? Or behaviors. So let's take this concept of a dog and let's create an object for it. Now we could have an object in this file, but it's a good practice to create a new file for each object. So now here we go into our source and we create, right click and go new Java class. We can name this whatever, but we'll call it dog because that's what it is, and press enter. Now we can put our fields in here and our behaviors in here. Now, these fields will have this sort of format. So you have the data, you have the access modifiers, so it could be public or it could be private, or it could be default, just nothing. And it has a type as well. which could be int, string, whatever, right? So let's grab, this little abstraction we've got here. And let's transcribe this in Java. So we will have our fields here, and essentially we'll go like this. We need to create types for each of these. So that will be a string. The breed will also make a string. Coat color we can also make a string. And the owner we can also make a string. Now, these could be of different structures. They could be of other objects, but we're not going to cover this because this is only basics of objects. Later on in this series, we'll cover things like enums and other things. And obviously these will just be, this will return string. And this will return void. And this will also return void. So we've got this all planned out here. Now let's put this in Java. So we'll go string name like this. And that's all we need to do for a field. That means that this class here has this attribute, which is a name, and we can access this outside of dog. So if we have an instance of dog, it will have a name. It will also have a breed. It will also have a coat color. And it will also have a string, which is an owner. We'll say owner name actually. So these are all of its sort of fields, right? So now let's go into our other main file here. And what we want is we want to create a dog, right? Because objects can be instantiated, right? So we call this instantiation. Now the dog class here is almost like a template, a blueprint for what a dog is. And then elsewhere in our code, we can create a new dog or create as many dogs as we would like following this blueprint, and we can fill them in with different values. So I'll show you how that works here. So we create a normal variable like we would with int or string or something like that, except for we give the type of our variable, which in this case is going to be dog, because this is a class here. Similarly to how your uppercase string is a class, as that highlighted there, we can see that that is a class. Don't worry about all the other stuff around it. It is a class. We could do the same thing for our custom class, which is a dog. So let's go dog equals new dog. And now we've created our first instance of a dog. Now what we can do is we can fill up this dog with values. So we could go dog dot, and then we have all our attributes here. So for example, we could say breed equals, I don't know, poodle, semicolon at the end, and we'll make our dog's name equal Tony Bark, and we can make our coat color be red, and we can also make our, which one have we not done yet? Owner called Ben the engineer. So now we've filled up this dog, this sort of template with values. So now what we can do is we can actually, output these values that are stored in the dog objects. So we can go system out dog, right? Now, this will output something really weird, and it will output like a hash code here, which we'll learn about later on. But for now, let's just log out, a value that we can get. So let's just say coat color, and we're expecting to see red, because obviously the coat color is what we've put here. We've filled in this coat color value, and it's appeared here. So this is how we sort of house fields within an object. And this is very important, it's a very fundamental part of Java, because it's an object-oriented, an object-driven language. Everything we interact with in Java is an object, apart from our core primitive, types like your int and your double and your void, static, all this stuff, class. Everything that is highlighted in the IDE in this orangey color, or it might be different in your IDE. All of these keywords are not objects, they are just built-in keywords to the language. Anything that has a capital letter or is highlighted as white is an object. And that object could have other objects in it, or it could have other primitives in it, as we see here. And that is how that works. So this is a very basic version of an object. Now, obviously, there's a lot more to objects, like constructors, setters and getters, and all that stuff. But for now, we're going to leave it at this, and we will go over all of that other stuff when it makes sense. So, I'll see you in the next one.